Hey everybody, how's it going? So today I'd like to go over hot air rework stations, and I'm going to be test driving this new Atten ST-862D and seeing how it compares to a quick 861DW. For those of you who just want to get to the nitty-gritty of the review and see how this works, please fast forward to the timestamp you see down below. If you want to hear the nitty-gritty, nonsensical drama rubbish, then don't fast forward and keep listening. Originally, what I recommended people use back in the old days, 6-7 years ago, was a Hakko FR801. I recommended this station because it was very consistent. It would put out the temperature that I told it to put out. It wouldn't go like up and down in the middle of a profile like a lot of the cheap crap that I was using that would cause me to turn it up way more than I needed to and burn things because I'd be sitting there slow roasting something forever, hoping it would the temperature would eventually pop up. And it was also very powerful in addition to being consistent. And you could get those for about $500 or $600 at the time. That was the hot air station that I was recommending. As time went on, they discontinued that station and it became more and more difficult to get service for it. And it was a bit of a pain in the ass having to deal with Hakko from time to time. So I tried the Weller WHA900, and that station was actually more powerful than the Hakko. So I thought, this is great. It is actually more powerful, and you could get it for that same $500 to $600. It was consistent. It was great. But just like the Hakko, that station was eventually discontinued, and I was not able to get parts for it. So at this point, I was kind of screwed as to what it is that I should buy. So I tried out this quick 861DW hot air station. It was actually Hakko that really primed me to try this out. Hakko created this hot air station called the 810, Hakko FR810. This thing was a complete pile of shit. It was $850. And if you wanted to change the temperature of the airflow, you had to click through this crappy VCR-like menu. It wasn't the kind of station where you can change something like, just hit up or down. So with the quick, if I wish to change the temperature, I literally just hit down and up. I would prefer a knob. By all means, I prefer to turn a knob than hit up and down, but this is at least a usable interface. On the Hakko, if I wish to change temperatures, you have to click on this stupid little star, and look, it only changes one digit. But the best part about this is that if I change it to a temperature it doesn't want me to change it to, it never gives me an error. It just keeps going. For example, for hot tweezers, you can't go above 750. It never tells me that. It just stays here. And if I want to change it to like say 640, I can't do that from here. It only lets you change one digit at a time. This is very, very annoying. This is very 1980s alarm clock or VCR clock here. And if I hit the wrong button like this or whatever, it's an absolute and utter clusterfuck. Like I just hit this by mistake. What is it that I am changing now? What am I setting? It doesn't tell me. I have no idea. I don't know how to get out of this. This is a very annoying interface, and Hakko is using this in the FR810, which in my opinion for a station that costs over $700 is completely unacceptable when you need to change temperature. Now on a soldering iron, I don't mind the interface being complete trash, but on a hot air station I do. My soldering iron, I typically don't change the temperature on it unless I'm working on an entirely different type of product, which rarely happens. But on the hot air station, I'm constantly changing. Am I working by a chip near the CPU? Okay, maybe I need a little bit less air, a little bit less heat. Am I working on this area? Okay, this area needs a lot more heat. There's a ground plane there. I'm constantly changing temperature and airflow. So the inability to do that quickly made the Hakko FR810 station a complete and utter piece of shit. So I was not able to buy the new Hakko to replace my old Hakko. I remember reaching out to Hakko saying, can you please create something with a usable interface so that I can actually buy this? And they didn't. But I got an email from them saying, we think that you're doing your viewers a disservice by not showing them the Hakko FR810. So I'm like, oh, really now? Disservice. So I did a review of it. Not only was the interface way worse than the interface that you get on this quick 861DW, which cost about $280 for me at the time or so when I bought it, but this station was actually superior. It was able to come to temperature quicker. It puts out more air, and it was able to take chips off of the board if I was just purely going for full power on donor boards just for the sake of demonstration. It was more powerful. It had a better interface and it was more powerful. This $280 station was better than Hakko's station, which was over $750. So it was very clear at this point that this was a very good station, and I remember opening it up. We sent one to Dave Jones. He opened it up, and there was nothing inside of it that looked like this thing's going to set your house on fire if you plug it in. So I thought it was great to sell. And this is what I have used, and also we've sold them as well for the past several years, about 3 years now. The problem with the relationship that I have with Quick is a very simple one. It's that when I deal with Quick, it is a nightmare. So if I say I would like to purchase 60 of this station, 20 of these nozzles, what does it cost with shipping? They'll say, we'll check. And then 2 or 3 days pass and they don't check. So I'll remind them. And they'll say, we'll check. And they don't, and they say they're going to check the warehouse, and they don't. So then I have to call the warehouse or email the warehouse and ask. And they say, okay, we'll see if they have it, but then get back to him for pricing. It will take somewhere between 7 to 10 days just to place an order with them. Then after I've placed an order with them and I've paid for it, they'll say, please send proof of payment to all of us, and I'll send it, and they won't ship it. And like 2 weeks will pass, and they'll say, oh yeah, we didn't get proof of payment. I'll say, yeah, I just sent proof of wire transfer. From the time that I would place an order to the time that it was actually shipped to me, not even the time that I receive it, just the time that it shipped to me, it started off at like a week and a half to 2 weeks, and then at some point it got to close to a month. And this is something that I brought up several times, and it's not something that ever improved. And it was incredibly aggravating. Now, the point that tipped me over to the edge with Quick, the reason that I no longer sell them on my website, the reason that I simply link to other people's website, is that at some point I figured out that they were actually charging certain other vendors less money than they were charging us, which I thought was not fair. I was not asking them for a discount because we have a YouTube channel or anything like that. I was not asking them for a discount for the fact that we gave a favorable earned review that would show that this is way better than a $700, $800 brand name product. I simply did not wish to be charged more than other vendors that are selling the exact same thing. And since we were unable to come to an agreement there where they're charging me about 15% more than they're charging another vendor that sells the exact same station, I decided to stop selling them altogether. Now, I mentioned this on live stream a while back, and when I mentioned it, someone asked, have I tried this station? They had, all the reviews that they were able to find of the station were not in English, and they couldn't really understand them. Is this thing good or a piece of shit? And I was kind of curious, because admittedly, it looks like a Quick knockoff. The Quick is kind of a knockoff of some more expensive stations. This seems like a knockoff of the Quick. I have no faith in Atten as a company. The reason I have no faith in Atten as a company is because I remember trying the Atten 858D when I was teaching with Jessa back in 2015. In one of the classes in summer of 2015, I tried to remove an ISL 6259 from an 820 3115 A1278 MacBook motherboard. This is something that should take under 30 seconds. After 8 minutes with that Atten, I could not get this chip off the board. I tried removing the nozzle and just letting it sit there for another 5 minutes. It still would not move off the board at max air and max heat. And after wasting 13 minutes on this, I eventually went to lunch and said, screw it, it's a piece of crap. With what the Atten 858D costs, it's hard for me to really blame it for being a piece of crap because it's ridiculously cheap. But at the same time, I could also buy a paint stripper and use that at that price, and it would remove things from the board. So I had written off Atten as a garbage brand because in my experience, the 858D was a terrible product. This one costs a little bit more, but it seems like a complete knockoff of the 861DW. So I'd like to compare these two stations and see how they perform. If the 861 winds up being considerably better, I will continue recommending this station and I will link to it. If the 862 winds up being better, I can't find anybody that sells it besides Atten directly, so I'll find someone who sells it, or we'll wind up selling this Atten in place of the Quick. So let's dig in here and just go over some first impressions. Now, the first thing that I notice over here that I want to bring up is that this station looks like a complete and total knockoff of this station in many ways. And this actually gives me hope that perhaps if they are trying to copy a design that's good, maybe they've copied everything that makes it good. If you take a look here, the base of these two stations is built just about the same. Like this and this. This is almost the exact same base. When you look at the handpiece itself, this is the same thing. You have the spring over here. You have the spring on this one. It looks like it's even the same spring because you have it's close together over there and then far apart here, close together there, far apart here. This over here. I mean, can you tell me that this is not the exact same thing as this? That this is. They look identical. They feel identical. So it looks like this is a knockoff of this. Now, what I'm interested in is what is it like to use this thing? What is the interface like? Is there any are there any hackoisms to it? But also, how well does it perform trying to take chips off of donor boards? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to remove chips from certain donor boards that I have here, and to keep things fair, I will use boards of the same type. So this way, if I'm using boards that are the same type, it's not like, you know, there's different thermal properties to one versus the other. So we're going to try that, and we're going to see how these stations both perform. Also, to keep things fair, I think it would make sense if we were to use the same nozzle for each station. Because for the Quick, here I have a bent nozzle that I purchased, and for the Atten, I don't have a bent nozzle. It has the stock nozzle on it. So I'm going to remove this nozzle over here. Actually, it looks like, yeah, this looks like it uses a different nozzle termination than the Quick, so I'm not going to be able to use the Quick nozzle with it. So what I'll do to make things fair here is I will put a straight nozzle on the Quick. This way, we are not getting any, the Quick is not winning any benefits until I can get myself a curved nozzle for the Atten. Let's just make sure we get nozzles that are the same size here. We want it to be fair. Nice little fair comparison. And then I will turn on the Atten and see what it's like using its interface and see how long it takes to remove some chips from a board. All right, so I picked myself up some matching nozzle sizes there so that we're going to get comparable results, something that's at least, so that if the stations are equally powered, that we should get equal seeming results. So I'd like to start off by just turning on this Atten, and let's see what the interface on this thing is like. So it says off. Now if I want to, it has 3 presets, just like the Quick has 3 presets, which leads me to believe there's a good chance these things may be using the same type of controller. When I do this, it doesn't turn on. So it still says off, and it has a lock on it, which is kind of strange. So how do you tell this thing to turn on? It says off, lock. All right, this is my, is there a, aha, there's a button on the handpiece. That's interesting. So you hit a button on the handpiece to turn it on. This is different from the Quick, which does not have a button on the handpiece. And this still acts as a sleep sensor, so that's pretty cool. So it's not going to just automatically turn itself on when you first pick it up out of here the same way the Quick does. The Quick, when you take this out, automatically turns itself on. But this doesn't. Now, if you want to change the temperature on this, let's see if it's the same as the Quick. It says lock on temperature, so I'm going to have to figure out how it is that you get around that. And I'm going to try to do this without reading the manual. Something that I mentioned before is that I don't believe you should have to read a manual to use a hot air station. This thing is literally a hot air blower. I think it's really strange to have to read a manual to operate something like this. In my opinion, if you need to read a manual to operate the hot air station, it's not you as the user that's failed, it's the company that made the thing for making something that is so confusing and convoluted. In my opinion, there's nothing to be admired about taking something that's supposed to be very simple and making it difficult. So let's see if we can figure this out. So the Quick, to my knowledge, does not have any sort of lock feature. So let's see, do we have any buttons on the side of this? No. We don't have anything on the back of it that would cause this to lock. That's not going to be it. So perhaps it has to do with this. Do I hold the power button or something? It says coal. Not sure what coal is going to mean. Let's see. Do we hold these two together, maybe? Do I hold these two together? Also, why is lock blinking? Does that mean there's an opportunity to undo it? All right, so I'm already annoyed by this thing because and whether or not I'm an idiot is irrelevant to this, because I'm the same idiot using the Quick that I am using the Atten. So if I'm an idiot and I can use this, then they've done something that you haven't. So let's see. Now it's blinking with the lock, but blinking lock doesn't get rid of lock. All right, so I'm gonna be a schlub and read the manual and see if it tells me how to get rid of this thing. It has an Atten certificate in the manual over here. Look at that. Atten certificate. This product passed the test allowed the factory. No, really, it actually says that. This product passed the test allowed the factory. Well, that gives me great confidence. That should give you great confidence as well. All right, I'm going to read the manual and see if we can figure out why this is locked. Let's see how long it takes to figure this out. We'll read this thing together. Settings. Boot up screen. After the station has been switched on, the display will turn on and show the system version for 1 second before switching to normal display. It shows temperature is 300. The temperature setting is locked. Okay, how do you unlock? Adjust air volume. Press air up or down. See figure 14. Long press for quickly adjusting. Stop pressing for... The setting value can be adjusted when the hot air gun is off. Okay. It says that it can only be adjusted when it's off, is what I'm getting from this manual. No. The word lock does not get mentioned. Here we go. Temperature locking function. Menu mode. Enter into menu mode by pressing both button 1 and 3 for more than 3 seconds under working status. Okay, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. Because now this station was designed in a manner where in order to use it, I need to read the manual. And I think that's a fail. It's a small thing. It really is. But still, that's just a fail in the usability department. Which, for the amount of money that this thing costs, I really can't fault it. Because this is a very... Because, you know, if you're broke, then you're more than happy to spend 9 seconds reading a manual to save, you know, 50 or 100 bucks. So that's fine. All right, so we're going to set this to maximum temperature. All right, so that was honestly fair. This wasn't an annoying manual. This manual, it took me all of... like 30 seconds to find out how to unlock it, so that's fine. But in terms of usability, that's something that would kind of piss me off out of the box as compared to the Quick, which would just allow me to get up and running without reading a damn manual. Now, I'm going to set this thing to max heat and also max air. So we are going to prep the board under the microscope, and we are going to try to remove a RAM chip from each one. So what you see over here on the screen is a RAM chip. And so what we're going to try to do here is we're going to try to remove the RAM from each one of these boards, and I'd like to time and see how long it takes to remove the RAM chip from each one of these motherboards using each hot air station. The first thing that we're going to do before we try to remove the RAM chip is use the proper amount of flux. Just get the fume extractor going. All right, so the first station that we are going to grab is going to be our Atten over here, and we're going to time how long it takes for this to get done. I'm going to put picture in picture so that you can see the microscope on the screen. All right, pick it up. Now what I need to do is to make this a fair test, remember the Quick is actually going to turn on the moment I pick it up out of the station. This is not going to turn on until I press the button. So what I'm going to do to try to make this fair is push the button as I'm removing it from the station. Turn it on. All right. So now we're going to take my... All right, let's see how long it takes. Wait, this is blowing cold air. Seriously? Okay. What I needed to do, apparently, this is interesting. When I held the button down, I was telling it to blow cold air. This is actually really interesting with regards to the features that this has that this doesn't. Because sometimes you may want to simply cool an area off a little bit, or you may just want to blow flux away, so you want it to blow cold air. And you may have to actually sit here and adjust the temperature from 500 all the way down to 100, or waste the preset. What the Atten does, which is actually pretty cool, is when you hold this thing, you can change it between cold air output or hot air output. So let's have it set to hot air output, and just take it out of here and try again. This is a cool little feature. So, all right, come on, click, and we're off to the races. All right, and on the board, time. I think I pulled the station over a little bit. That wasn't very nice of me. Not having a bent nozzle really does suck. I am going to have to see what the availability is for bent nozzles for this station, as that's going to be a game changer. If they have bent nozzles available, that would be excellent. Alright, game. Chips off. Now we're going to try it with the other board, and as you can see, the station's automatically going to turn on. Now this is going to be pretty much the exact same type of board over here. This board has Helix RAM instead of Elpida, but it's essentially it's the same principle. It's the same, these chips are cross-compatible. This is pretty much the same board type that it's on. No real difference there. This is just the difference between two different airs that were manufactured at two different times. All right, and let's go. Still not ready to come off. All right. Now we're going to try doing that again with two other boards. The reason I'd like to try a do-over here is that the Atten being as far away as it was did not really make this a fully fair comparison, because it was more difficult to utilize the Atten since I didn't have enough slack on my cord. So we're going to do one more comparison of these two. I'm going to grab two other donor boards that are the same type so that we're comparing apples to apples here. So here we have two 820 3476 boards. So we're going to make this a little bit more even now by having the Atten closer to me, so this way I'm not, stretching the cord as much. I noticed that last one was kind of a shit comparison. So let's move these all a little bit. Give myself some more slack. Alright, gonna pick this up, hit the button, and we're off to the races now. There we go, much more comfortable under there. Okay, pulled it off a little early there. You can tell by those two balls down there that weren't really ready to go. And now let's try another one with the Quick. I'm going to take another of the same board. Again, pretty much same idea as before. This one is using Elpida RAM instead of Helix, but that's not going to make any difference to our test. And off to the races with my quick. Note that the quick and the Atten are both set to the maximum temperature and the maximum airflow. The quick gives you an additional 20 Celsius, but it's one of those things where I'm not quite sure how much that even matters. My WHA 900, when set to 1000 Fahrenheit, would give me 950. A JBC, one that I have here, when set to 950 Fahrenheit, would give you, 1027. So it's not so much about the number on the screen. You got to get used to your hot air station, because at the amounts of money we're talking about here, if you're expecting perfect calibration, that's just laughable. All right, it's off the board. In terms of feel, these also feel very similar to one another. So if you just take I'm going to wait for this to cool off before I turn it off. It looks like, looking over our results, these stations are seemingly identical when it comes to power and their ability to remove large BGA chips from these motherboards. So when it comes to power, there is nothing that the Quick seems to have on the Atten. The next thing I'd like to do is try to see what type of control they have. So if I'm trying to replace a BGA LED driver, is it going to be more annoying with one of the stations versus the other? I remember about 5.5 years ago, Jessa just cursing and screaming out how annoying it was trying to replace a basic LED driver on here, and she was crapping on herself, and I said, Jessa, you're a better technician than I am. This is not you. You have a broken station. And she refused to try a new station, and she kept trying to solder this damn BGA with a broken Hacko FR802. So I remember sending her my station so that she could try it out, and she realized, wow, this is so easy. It just works now. So I want to see what that experience is like here. Am I able to replace something really basic like the LED driver on either of these MacBook Air boards easily with this Atten station versus the Quick station? It's not just about it being equally powerful. It's also about the consistency of that power, because if it's not consistent, the chip's never going to melt into place, or it'll cool off before it gets warm. It's very aggravating, and it's one of those things that you need to experience the frustration of it personally from using a cheap, a crappy, or just broken station in order to understand. So I'm going to grab myself two LP8550s. I'll be right back, and we're going to see how the station handles soldering a micro BGA onto the board. All right, I got myself an LP8550. So I'm going to try replacing the LP8550 over here on this board with the Atten. I already know that I'm able to do this with a Quick comfortably because I do it on a regular basis. So I'm only going to try this here with the Atten and see what it's like. So let's... All right. Say no more. Lost in a winter wonderland. Alright, seems soldered on pretty well to me. I'm going to look into whether or not you're able to get a bent nozzle for this Atten. If I can find bent nozzles for the Atten, the time frame, the power, the experience of using it is virtually the same as using the Quick. If I cannot get bent nozzles for the Atten, then it is not worth the money savings over the Quick. So I'm going to do a little bit of research on that and figure out if you can get bent nozzles for it. And if you can get bent nozzles for it, I think it's a great deal. The amount of time that it took to remove the chip with each of these stations was very close, if not virtually identical. This is not having the issues that I had with the Atten ST-862D, where I couldn't even remove one tiny basic chip. A RAM chip on this board is going to be way more difficult to remove than an ISL 6259. It's a larger chip, and it did it no problem even with a really tiny nozzle. So in terms of power, I think that the Atten and the Quick are in the same arena. This is a complete and total knockoff of this. They look the same, they function the same, they feel the same. So if you are able to purchase bent nozzles for the Atten, there's absolutely no reason that I can imagine someone choosing to use the Quick, because the power level in these two is comparable and virtually the same. The functionality of them is virtually the same. The only annoying thing about the Atten is that out of the box it locks the temperature, and you have to read the manual. But if reading the manual is going to mean that you save $50 or $70 or $100, then I'll read the manual. It's not nearly as annoying as the Hacko interface. And this little thing over here where you have a button to turn it on and off is actually really cool. You don't lose any of your sleep functionality. And the ability to set it to run only cool air without wasting one of my presets is also, again, something that I think is really cool. Now, the last thing I'm kind of interested in here is how do you set the presets on this thing? So if I, let's say, click on 2, if I change the temperature to 370, I would hope that if I tap this like that, that it saves it. Kind of like a radio. Let's see if it does that. And it does, because this was before it was. So watch, I'm gonna lower this again to like 285. Tap it, and yeah, so the saving presets in this is just as simple. It's the exact same procedure as saving presets in the Quick. I would not be surprised if these two are running off of the exact same controller. I would not be surprised if I opened it up and Atten literally copied and pasted everything from the Quick into the Atten. I may open up the Atten on a later video so that we could get a look of what's going on the inside of it. But at this point in time, I think that the Atten is well worth the amount of money that it costs. And the same way that when I first tried the Quick, I thought, how is Hacko expecting people to pay $600 and $700 for this? When I try the Atten, I don't understand what value Quick is providing to the customer to make it worth that additional $50 to $100 to purchase the Quick. Because at this point in time, it looks like you're paying somewhere around an additional $50 to $100 for the Quick over the Atten. And that doesn't seem to make sense. If they had some sort of VIP service when they sold it to you, maybe, but the way, if they treat other sellers half the way they treat me, then I don't see that happening. So we're most likely going to be selling the Atten into the future. And buy Quick. Like, I really don't know what else to say. The last thing that is of concern to me is bent nozzle availability. This does not seem to have the nozzle that attaches the same way that Quick does. Let me see if it's possible for me to attach this onto here. I doubt it is. Yeah, let's see. Will this fit? Actually, wait a second. Huh? Does it? No. This is made differently. So, yeah, I may have actually almost broken something there. So the Atten nozzle goes outside of the area, right? Whereas the Quick nozzle is designed to go inside this little groove over here, which is honestly very unnatural feeling. But let's see if I can actually fit that in there. Because if I can, that means that you can use a Quick nozzle on the Atten. Yeah, it's not budging. Yeah, it's not budging. It is maybe a small change in tolerance there. Because if you take a look on the Quick, see, this is like the Quick nozzle. The Quick nozzle, it doesn't go on the outside. It goes on the inside. And that does not fit over here. This is, yeah, that's never. Yeah, I'm probably going to break something by trying to fit that in there. Someone could probably make it fit if they just kept pushing really, really hard to just shove it in there. I can only imagine what my comment section is going to look like at this point. But what I want to do is I want to find out, does Atten have bent nozzles that they can make up that are the same size and shape as the Quick nozzles I have here? If they do have that, then this station is an absolute keeper, and there is nothing that makes the Quick worth $90 to $100 more than the Atten. If I can get bent nozzles to this Atten, that means that the price of quality hot air that's consistent and will allow you to do a good job has decreased another $100, which I would think is absolutely awesome. That's great news. So I'm going to figure that out, and once I have some news, I will update this video, and we'll go from there. Atten doesn't have bent nozzles. However, if I give them specifications, just like with Quick, they're willing to have them made up for me, which is great. So I'm going to have them made up with the same specifications that I asked for Quick: 6.4 millimeter, 8.4 millimeter, 10.7 millimeter. Micro BGA, TPS 51980 size, SMC size at a 45-degree angle. So bent nozzles are going to be available, which is absolutely great. That's awesome. The main problem is that with everything going on in the world right now, they're not going to. I can't get this thing again for another at least 2 months. So it's going to be at least until absolute minimum middle of June before this thing is available for sale. I'll include a pre-order link down below if anybody wants to pre-order this thing and get it the moment that I do, and we'll have an option for bent nozzles as well. But this is not going to be available for a while. Aside the fact that it's not going to be available for a while, I really see no reason to have a Quick instead of this. The Quick costs more money, it has less features, and they, for all intents and purposes for me, they work just the same. Now, the real lesson to be learned here is that in relationships, business relationships, manufacturing relationships, or even personal ones, don't break the inertia. The only reason that I stopped recommending a $650 Hacko station and found this Quick for about $300 is because Hacko broke the inertia. They had a system with a knob that was very easy to turn. You just turn the knob, everything works, to this bullshit little VCR system. That interface was awful, and that interface change prompted me to look elsewhere. I was more than happy to keep using my Hacko FR801. I was more than happy to keep recommending it. And then I found out that the Quick is about $300. It's more powerful. It has better nozzle choices. And it's cheaper. It was there right in front of me. I didn't know to look for it, but you gave me an incentive to look for it by making something that sucks. Quick makes a great, cheap station. It's still a quality station. I would have never looked and found out that Atten makes a station that's, depending on what shipping winds up costing me, $50 to $100 cheaper if Quick hadn't treated me like shit. If they hadn't, time and time again, taken 3 to 4 weeks to ship something after I wired them their effing money. If they hadn't given a competitor 15% off of what they were giving us and said, no, we're not going to give you that discount. That's lame. And the thing here is, I would have never found this, but I found it because Quick did that. And now that I found this station and that I'm asking them to make a lot of this station, and I'm going to have them make nice bent nozzles for it, there's not going to be really much reason to buy a Quick, because the Quick is going to cost $50 to $100 more for pretty much the exact same thing. You shouldn't break the inertia. Like Windows did this with Windows Vista. They had a system that everybody was using. They released an operating system that barely worked when you turned it on. It got a lot of people to change over to Mac. Windows 8 did the exact same thing. You had something that everybody liked. You had Windows 7. It was usable. People knew what to do. And then where's the start menu? Like, how do I open programs? What the hell? And now you have people looking to switch to something else because they don't know how to use that anymore. And once they move over to something else and they realize, wait a second, there's no viruses on this Mac? And I don't know why is it so much faster than my PC? They don't know that it comes with an SSD standard, but wow, I'm just going to stick with this now. And now you lost someone. You could have been continuing to skate by with a product that wasn't even that good. And so, nobody was looking at the competition. But once you give people reason to look at the competition, they will. And you don't want people doing that if you don't have the absolute best product. Even at my business, if I have a customer that's been with me for 3 or 4 or 5 years, some of the more educational clients or corporate ones, I'm not going to shit on them and assume that they're going to be there tomorrow just because I was nice to them in the beginning. I'm not going to start having instead of having the customer service person deal with them, I'll have a tech who doesn't speak English type to them because they're fine with it. I'm not going to give them inaccurate estimates because they'll be fine with a change order later or ship things slowly because they're already a customer. And the reason is, I don't want my customers looking elsewhere. Why would I want my customers looking elsewhere? If they look elsewhere, they may find out that there's someone out there that's just as good as us, but maybe they're a little bit faster than us just because they have less business at the time. Or maybe somebody else is 15 or 20% cheaper. I want to treat my customers like every single day they have an option to go somewhere else. Even if they've been with us for 5 or 10 years, I treat that relationship like at any given time they can choose to go elsewhere. You don't take it for granted. Because if you start to take it for granted, then they may eventually look elsewhere. And then when they look elsewhere, they're not coming back. Because even if I'll tell them, okay, wait, you know what, fine, we'll match the speed that you have there. Well, they're already set up with the new place. They're not coming back. They're fine. Why would they come back to us? Like, if somebody changes from Windows 8 to a Mac, and then they've set up all their shit again exactly the way they want it on that Mac, when Windows says, okay, wait, never mind, 10's out, here's your start button back, it's like, yeah, but I'm already on a Mac now. Like, why am I going to go back to you to get the exact same thing that I now have set up here? And you don't want to do that. Even in your personal relationships in your life, you don't want to take them for granted and just assume that because I have kids with this person and we've been together for 5 years, that they're going to be there the next day. Don't start treating them shittier and getting out of shape and stop going to the gym, stop your running, stop your, telling them you care about them every day, stop making them feel appreciated, because then they're going to eventually get just like me going to Atten from Quick. They're going to find someone else. And if you're a dude, you're going to have to pay alimony. And that's going to suck. So that's it for today. I'm going to have a link to where you could purchase this thing down below. I think it is an absolutely excellent station. Once this thing is actually available for sale, which again is going to be probably 2 months that I hear from them, I absolutely see no reason to recommend the Quick. It's not because the Quick is a bad station. The Quick is a fine station. It's just a station that does the exact same thing that this does for a lot more money. And I don't see how Quick offers anything to make it worth that increase in cost. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you all in the next video. And I'm also very sorry that it took me this long to do this. Someone asked me to get around to doing this Atten Station review in my live chat on the my live channel where I do all my live streams almost a month ago. And a lot of stuff has been happening since then that has kept me from getting around to it. But there you go. Review. See y'all later.